Today on TimesCast, it's Election Day in the U.S. What's motivating voters in Columbus, Ohio?
No matter how angry you are or how upset you are with the way things are going, you just have to get out and vote.
TV networks roll out new technology for Tuesday night's election coverage.
We're going to see this election matrix, this 3D infographic that'll show you different races.
And an expected Republican wave in the House, but by how much? The narrative of this election has been voter anger and frustration with Congress. At the polls in Columbus, Ohio today, voters weren't motivated by anger, but instead by a sense of responsibility.
This is Kim Severson with the New York Times. We're talking to voters here in the Hilltop neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio. It's a middle-class neighborhood, but certainly people here have lost a lot of jobs.
I'm scraping for work every day. I've been with companies that's folded up and rolled away.
A lot of people in this neighborhood are Democrats, but many of them are switching parties looking for some solutions.
I mean, Obama ain't doing much. The governor ain't sticking to his point. I went with Kasich. I ain't gonna be afraid to admit it.
I went mostly Republican this time.
But like a lot of voters in other parts of Columbus, many people think President Obama is doing a good job and they're gonna stand behind him.
People are expecting miracles overnight.
It's been 2 years, and we had to deal with 8 years of, nonsense.
I really feel as a black person that it's very important that we vote.
Although there has been a lot of talk about angry voters and people who want to throw the bums out, we're finding most voters here are staying right in the middle, and they don't want to jump to any of the new mini movements like the Tea Party.
Back in 1776, that was a good idea. And I think they're just kind of getting to the extreme.
No matter how angry you are or how, upset you are with the way things are going, you just have to get out and vote and, give yourself a voice.
On Tuesday night, TV networks are using new technologies to capture an ever-fractured audience.
So later on today, election returns will start flowing in. News divisions, whether they're broadcast or cable, love to trot out new toys, new technology.
That's right.
Last time around, in 2008, I saw a hologram at CNN.
Yeah.
Now, I've never seen the hologram again.
Yeah, I haven't
but what
either.
can we expect to see in new tricks out of news divisions this year?
If no hologram on CNN, we're going to see this election matrix, this 3D infographic that'll show you different races.
No doubt operated by John King.
By John King with the magic wall. Basically, it's a branding opportunity for the networks. They all get to show off how big and how bold their news organizations are. CNN's calling this Election Night in America to give it a kind of sports feel, and they're using the theme music.
My heart rises just when you say that.
They're using the theme music from John Adams, the HBO miniseries, to make it seem more historic.
But all the innovation is not really going to be just on the side of the media organizations. It's the consumers that have a lot of technology at hand.
Right, we get to assemble our own coverage. It's basically a two-screen experience where we're watching on TV, but we're using our laptops or our computers or our iPads to manipulate the data on our own.
Or see what our friends are saying.
Or see what they're talking about on Facebook. I think it's cool that ABC is going to stream their coverage on Facebook. NBC is going to be streaming on Twitter, so you can follow along and chat along at the same time.
What about iPads?
Well, ABC has this interesting iPad app where you can watch the broadcast in the corner of the screen, but then manipulate the state-by-state data and play a game where you try to guess what states are going to go red, which are going to go blue, and then compare to the actual results. I think we're going to see even more of that 2 years from now by the presidential election in 2012.
Regardless of what screen you're staring at, it's going to be a long, interesting night.
And even morning if you want. CNN's still going to be starting their morning show at 3 a.m.
I'm going to be asleep.
So Nate, there seems to be a consensus forming that Republicans will pick up about 50 to 60 seats in the House. I think you have it at about 53. And there are some estimates, though, that it could be a lot higher, like 70 seats or 70 plus seats. So what do you think accounts for that kind of fluctuation?
People seem almost to be racing one another to, who can come up with the biggest number, right? And we say there's a big error, and so we say 70 seats, 80 seats. Yeah, we could see that happening. I think they're not the most likely outcome.
Right. What early results will tell you whether we're at a 55-seat win for Republicans or a 70-seat win?
So, Indiana and Kentucky closed their polls first. Barron Hill's district, he's down in southern Indiana. He looks like one of the relatively more vulnerable Democrats. If he were to hold on, that could indicate that the wave wouldn't be as big as you might think it would be. There are also a couple in Kentucky. John Yarmouth is the Democratic incumbent in Louisville, I think. If he were to lose and he looks relatively safe, that's when you start to think about, but let's be careful too. I mean, there are these, even in wave elections, even in nationalized elections, you still have a lot of regional patterns. It could be the case that Democrats do badly in states like Kentucky and Indiana, the kind of the Midwest and the kind of inner South and then hold their own on the East Coast or vice versa. So I think we have to be careful about extrapolating too much. By the time you get to 7 or 7:30 or 8 and you've had a diversity of states, start reporting results, then we'll have a really good sense.
Join us again tomorrow for another TimesCast.